for graduate school. We'll go into a little bit more detail of the written material, so like the statement of purpose or personal statement, because that's where we believe that students can really shine in their application. We'll talk a little bit about financial aid, and then we'll just leave you with a few tips, from admissions representatives of master's and doctoral programs here. Next slide, thank you. So first off, how to prepare for graduate school. So when should you even start? Some students start their freshman year of college because they know that that's one of their goals in life, is to ultimately go to a master's or a doctoral program. Sometimes people are in the workforce and then they're deciding, oh, maybe I want to go back and get some more skill sets, or get another degree in a field, or even switch fields, getting more of those more hard skill sets and more theoretical types of experiences with a master's or a doctoral program. So, I mean, pretty much any time I think you can start looking into graduate school, depending on what your journey is. But we generally say probably like the fall before you want to start. So for example, if you were planning on starting in fall 2023, I would say probably begin preparing or begin looking at graduate schools probably in the fall of the year before, so fall 2022. That'll give you some time to kind of put your materials together and do your research, making sure the program is the right fit for you, all of that stuff. But some students, can take a few months to make their final decision. So it's kind of up to your journey there. So generally speaking, looking at the difference between a master's and a doctoral program. So master's level, usually those programs are anywhere between 1 year to maybe 3 years. So it's a relatively quick program. You can end up, depending on the master's program, you may need to do a final project, you may need to write a thesis, or maybe comprehensive examinations or something like that. So keeping in mind those types of, conclusions for your master's can be helpful for you as well. Usually students who want to go into a master's program usually want to get some additional skill sets, but they don't want to devote another 5 to 7 years to a PhD program. Usually for master's programs, students are switching fields as well. So those are things to consider when you're looking at a master's program. For doctoral degrees, so there are different types of doctoral degrees. One of the most popular ones is a PhD. So it's a doctorate of philosophy in a specific field. So for example, a PhD in education, or a PhD in psychology or something like that. So it's looking at the more theoretical types of frameworks for that field, and is geared towards students who want to add to the theory, who want to, research the theory and ultimately add to that field of study. And a lot of them, I wouldn't say all of them, but a lot of students who do complete PhDs then tend to be higher education faculty members in the end. There's another type of doctoral degree. At that level, there's, for example, a doctorate of educational leadership or a doctorate of psychology. So those types of programs are geared towards more applying the theories that you're learning in whatever that field is. So depending on what your goals are, you may want to look at other options other than the traditional PhD. And then those who opt for other types of doctorates or an MD or something like that, they tend to be practicing within the field. So that's a distinction that I always like to share with people. And then the doctoral degrees can be anywhere from, I would say, about 5 to 7 years to completion there. And usually there's a dissertation or a final project that you'll have to complete at the end as well. So those are just some general things to consider as you're kind of just looking at graduate school in general. Next slide, please. So finding your fit. So we like to talk a lot about this because it's really about your journey and about what you're going to need out of a graduate school program. So the first way that we recommend that you kind of take a look at narrowing down your options, because there are so many options throughout the US. The first thing is we always recommend kind of looking at LinkedIn. That's a good place to kind of start. Look at people who you look up to. Look at people who you aspire to be. See what types of programs that they went into or graduated from. see what level of education did they need to complete to get to where they are in life. So did they need a full PhD, or were they fine with just a master's? Looking at those can kind of help you start narrowing down, okay, maybe I need to be at a PhD level to be, to be similar to this person or have a similar outcome. So definitely taking a look at mentors and things like that can really start narrowing down where you'd like to go. The other thing I like to recommend is kind of thinking through, where do you want to start building your professional network? So, if you aspire to kind of work in the Los Angeles area, great. So you may want to start narrowing down your search to LA based or Los Angeles based graduate school programs, because you're going to be building connections, not just with the faculty and the staff of your department, but you're also going to be networking with your colleagues. A lot of times in graduate school, many of, at least people in my classroom and in the classrooms here at Claremont, they're working in the field, or they're transitioning into a new field. So building those professional networks can start at the graduate school level and not just focus on, your, experiences at work. So that's something to consider when you're finding your fit for a graduate program. So the first thing that you'll want to also take a look when you're looking through and you're narrowing down the different graduate school programs, you'll want to get to know the faculty, the program faculty and their research. So if you are interested in, let's say, doing a law degree in environmental law or something like that, you want to ensure that the program you're looking at has an environmental lawyer or has a faculty member that focuses on the research that you want to do, because they can provide networking opportunities, and they can also provide really good insight to your final dissertation or your final project, depending on the different types of programs that you're going into. So you want to ensure that you have some support there for your graduate program. Program focus, so alignment with your professional goals. So in the end, I know, for example, when I was looking into graduate schools, I looked at the mission and the vision of the program that I was looking into. Did it align with my goals? For example, currently I'm in a doctorate of educational leadership, and one of their primary focuses was social justice. That means a lot to me. So I made sure that when I was getting my materials together, I highlighted that aspect of myself. And then also the program ended up being the right fit because they were focusing on something that meant a lot to me and was one of my values. So you want to take a look at those things, because everything, every class, every project is going to be geared towards that goal. So you want to make sure it resonates with you as you're finding your fit there. We also recommend, if you are able, it is a weird time right now, but if you're able, try to do a campus visit or visit the area. That can be a good indicator for you, visualizing yourself as a graduate student there for 2 years or 5 to 7 years, depending on the program. You'll be able to meet with admission staff. The admission staff, like Sean and I, are invaluable to you as you're trying to find your fit, because our job is to essentially get you all the information you need to make the most informed decision about your graduate school program. So you'll want to check in with them and, on a daily basis, communicate with them about what your needs are, and they can connect you. You'll also be able to, kind of do campus tours. Sometimes they have events where you can engage with faculty, current students, and things like that. For example, this weekend, we're having our huge admitted student weekend event, including our spring preview event. So their students are able to take mock classes, so mock graduate school classes, so you can get a feel for what it's like to be a graduate student at Claremont Graduate University. So things like that, you'll definitely want to take advantage of. And then especially right now, there's a lot of virtual events as well. We just launched a virtual tour in the last year. So taking advantage of all of those different things can help you, just make sure that the program is the right fit. When you're looking at a program, you'll want to look at the program kind of timeline. So like I was mentioning before, a master's program can take anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. So it's up to you. Can you see yourself doing 1 more year of school, or can you see yourself doing 3 years? Or do you see yourself for the next, 5 to 7 years committing to a PhD or a doctoral program? So kind of looking at those things and if you can stick it out, or some instances, some programs do allow you to get a master's on the way to a PhD. So you would enroll for a PhD, and then at a certain point when you have enough units, or maybe you need to do some type of examinations or something like that, at that point you get a master's. So looking at those options, asking those questions right from the bat can be helpful for you as well. Because if you don't, if you're not sure if you want to commit to a full PhD, but if you can get a master's on the way and then stop, that's something to consider for yourself. You also want to take a look at the time of the coursework. So like I mentioned before, in my doctoral program, a lot of the classes were in the evening because I was working full time. So that was important to me to find that right fit. But if you're able to commit, your mornings or your afternoons to classes, that's something to consider as well. So thinking through all of those things can be really helpful for you. You also want to take a look at student support services. So like, the career office, things like that. What types of events do they do? What types of support do they provide to students? Do you need any special services for your classes, things like that? So you want to ensure that they all have those supports that will help you be successful in your master's or doctoral program. And then lastly, you want to take a look at the career trajectories of the alumni. So when you're going, through LinkedIn and things like that, you can also see career or alumni information as well. So that's something to look at as well when you're doing your graduate school research. Where did these people end up? Are these the types of jobs that I want to get in the end? So all of these things will inform your final decision for your graduate school program. Next slide. So getting a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of how to apply to grad school. So now you've done all of that research that I just talked about. You talked with faculty, you talked with students, got all these perspectives, and you're like, all right, I am ready to start my application. So first things first, obviously review the application materials. We'll talk a little bit about those in more detail in just a minute. But the first thing that you'll want to do after you look at the requirements, you want to establish a timeline for putting all of those together. First things first, when is the deadline? Is there a priority deadline? Is there a final deadline? Can I get in all of these materials in by those deadlines? For example, our institution works on a priority deadline model. And depending on the institution, the priority deadline really, if you get all your materials in by that time, you'll have first pick of, if there's any additional funding opportunities, or you'll be the first to know, if you were admitted or not. So then you can make your transition plans, things like that. So you want to take a look at each program or each program's deadlines and see if they have priority deadlines or final deadlines. Final deadlines is the last possible minute that you can submit all of those materials for that program there. As you're looking at the application requirements, are there any specific directions? Is there specific formats? Do they want specific things before other materials? So you want to make sure you follow those directions to the T, because you don't want to make any dumb mistakes, as you're submitting all of these different materials and you're trying to organize all of this different information. A lot of programs will require official academic transcripts. So you'll want to make sure that you request those early from all of your previous institutions, because it can take some time. And I know during the time of COVID, it took a little bit longer for some institutions to process those things. So you'll want to do those pretty much straight away. You want to, from the get-go, you'll also want to think about recommenders and who would be good recommenders for that particular program. So in my opinion, I think if you're looking at a more professional type of degree, so like a doctorate in educational leadership, or if you're looking like at a master's, like an MBA or something like that, I think it's appropriate to have professional recommendations in addition to the academic ones. So when I was applying to graduate school, I got one from my supervisor and then one from a previous a previous faculty member. So then it balanced out my application there. So that's something to consider. If you are looking at a more research heavy type of program or a PhD program, and they specifically want faculty or academic types of recommenders, you want to make sure that you have those as well. One thing that we recommend for all students to have prepared at least a draft. You'll want to have a draft of your statement of purpose or a draft of your like resume. I would say have just general drafts of those, because you can provide those to your recommenders, because then they will know your career or your professional kind of goals. They'll know some about more of your experiences, things like that, and they can really tailor the letter to what you really need it to be for your master's or your doctoral application there. So it doesn't need to be finalized, but just have a draft for them, so that way they can get a sense on where you want to go with a master's or a doctoral program. And we'll talk a little bit more about the statement of purpose and the personal statement a little bit later, but that's something for you to consider as well. I also, when I was preparing my application materials, because recommenders can sometimes be faculty members, another thing to think about is it during finals week? You don't necessarily want to ask your faculty member during finals week or the beginning of the semester to write you a letter of recommendation, because they have so many other things like grading, preparing their classroom, all of those things that they have to worry about. So you want to keep in mind the time of year that you're asking for this letter of recommendation as well. And what I did too is I gave my recommenders, I believe it was 2 weeks before the actual deadline, because they are people too, things happen. So I give them a deadline of 2 weeks before I actually need the material. So that way you have some buffer time and you're not, stressing out just before the deadline, waiting for somebody else to submit this. So you want to do that as well. For me, I gave my recommenders about 2 months to write my recommendation. So that's something to consider as well as you're looking for recommenders. Just like I said, give them ample time to think about your recommendation. You can't expect them to turn that around in a week or so. So please try to give them time to write you a really good recommendation. You also want to give yourself plenty of time to write your personal statement or your statement of purpose. Like I mentioned before, is there a specific format that that they want you to put it in, or is there a specific prompt that they want you to write? So you want to take time, make sure you do it correctly the first time. And then also it's a lot of reflection, for your statements of purpose. It's reflecting on where you want to go, what your professional goals are, how your experiences have informed your decision. We'll talk more about that later. So you want to give yourself lots and lots of time to do that. It took me a very long time to write my statement of purpose. I would say probably about 6 months. And you also want to give people time to read your recommendation. So, your personal statement, because then they can help correct grammar. Does it make sense? So if you have close friends or family who would be able to, provide any additional insight for that can be helpful for you as well. I know for our applicants at our institution that admissions representatives can take the time to review your personal statement or statement of purpose for you, just to give you a little bit more of that insider type of advice there as well. So utilizing all of those resources can really make for a stellar personal statement there. And then lastly, double check all of your application materials. There are so many times where I have seen students write in the wrong institution. I know copy and paste is a thing, but please just double check to make sure the materials have the right institution name on there, are also formatted correctly and things like that. So please double check and make copies for yourself just in case they get lost. So talking a little bit more about the actual application materials themselves. So generally speaking, all graduate school applications have these things usually. The first thing is an online application form. So pretty straightforward, fill in the blanks type of thing. They'll also usually have an application fee attached to their application. I recommend as you're kind of doing your research, seeing if there's any opportunity for an application fee waiver. So at our institution, we waive application fees for any student who attends one of our events or meets with one of our admissions representatives one-on-one. So there's other opportunities out there as you're kind of doing your research, but definitely see if that's an option for you. All of the students who are coming to our spring preview event this weekend, they are getting application fee waiver codes. So you'll want to definitely try to take advantage of those opportunities for you, because it will save you some money in the end, because they can range anywhere from, I would say, I think it's like $50 to like $200 or something like that. So that'll save you when you save you some money when you are applying to multiple grad schools. And also the question we get a lot is, how many grad schools should I apply to? And that's usually a great question. We usually say about 5. 5 is a pretty good indicator. So if you multiply 5 by like 100, that's $500. So definitely take advantage of these application fee waivers and opportunities like that. Official transcripts, we mentioned before, usually applications require official transcripts. Definitely check in with the admissions representative, because at least at our institution, we accept unofficial transcripts for the review process. So that can save you, $20, $30 per transcript. So you'll want to check in with the admissions representative for those nuances of the application there. But usually it's transcripts from all of your previous institutions. If you took classes at a junior college, they want to see all of those things. So you'll want to make sure you get those early if they require the official transcripts. A resume or a CV, pretty straightforward. Work experience for your resume. Pretty much it showcases all of your experience outside of academia. So you want to make sure you beef that up and just kind of highlight all of the things that relate to the field that you're trying to apply to. Like I mentioned before, some students are transitioning into a different field. So maybe their bachelor's degree, for example, my bachelor's degree was in anthropology, but I was going into a master's of public administration. So what I did is on my resume, I highlighted all of my nonprofit work and things like that. So that kind of helps my application there. So that's something to consider. A CV really highlights more of the academic types of experience that you have, publications, research, things like that. And I would recommend that for any program that's really has that research heavy, research focused types of admissions. And then for international applicants, usually it's you need an English proficiency exam score. So once you have all of those materials, that goes for pretty much any graduate program in the US. But the things that you'll also want to look at are the program specific materials that you'll need to submit. So test scores. Usually at the graduate level, they require the GRE. So you'll want to take time. As you're building out your timeline, you want to make sure you have enough time to study for that exam, take the exam, and then also submit the exam scores and things like that. For me, since I don't think I'm a very good test taker, I took extra time to do that because I was able to take the test twice before I submitted my graduate school application. So if that's you, you may want to consider trying to do that as early as possible, like me. Sometimes graduate programs, like for example, a dentistry type of program would require the DAT, or if you're looking at like an MBA or something like that, they may require the GMAT. Again, connect with your admissions representative because the pandemic was a weird time. Some programs have been a little bit more flexible with those test scores. So definitely check in with your admissions representative before you submit your application materials and your application for the program. So you'll want to, definitely leave time if you need to study for the exam and take the exam. Letters of recommendation, we talked a little bit about earlier. Again, do they want professional recommenders? Do they want academic recommenders? How many do they want? Do they want 3? Do they want 2? All of those things. Do they want the letter formatted in a specific way. So again, following those directions and picking the right recommenders can be really helpful for you. The statement of purpose and personal statement, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide here, but you'll want to see if they have a prompt. You want to see if there's formatting or specific formats that they want those things in. So those are things to consider. Some programs will require some kind of creative sample. So some may require an audition, or some of them will require maybe like a portfolio or something like that, or an audition, or maybe they want you to write like an artist statement, something like that. So you'll want to make sure that if they require an additional, maybe a writing sample even, you'll want to have those prepared, your best work prepared for the for your application materials as well. And then lastly, as I mentioned, there's can be auditions, there can be interviews and things like that. I know, for example, at our institution, our teacher education programs require an interview, and then also our MBA programs. Usually MBAs do require an interview. Just for those, we recommend just kind of knowing why the program is a good fit for you. Knowing the philosophy of the program can be helpful. Knowing your career goals. All of those things can kind of help you for the interview for those different types of programs here. Next slide.
Thank you, Heather. So now we're sort of going to transition into some more specific points and questions on your application and things to think about regarding grad school. The first of which is producing strong written materials. So running through that application checklist for any graduate school you're going to apply to, you're probably going to be asked to submit some sort of statement of purpose and or personal statement. Now, some institutions will use these terms interchangeably, but I think some admissions representatives, myself being one of them, would argue that there are some key differences between a personal statement and a statement of purpose. So it's really important to read the instructions on this particular element of your application very carefully. The last thing you would want is to write more of a personal statement, sort of a background of your information and who you are as a person, when they're asking for a statement of purpose, which is a little bit different. So what is the statement of purpose? And we'll talk about that first. Generally speaking, the statement of purpose is a document which looks at the present and at the future. It's going to detail why you're going to seek out a particular program and what you hopefully hope to do when you receive that degree. So for example, if you're looking at a Master's of Arts in Psychology, which is going to be potentially a very research-focused degree, looking at a lot of statistics and, evaluation, for example. So what is it that you want to do with that degree? What is your purpose for seeking out that degree, and what sort of career do you hope to obtain with it? So that's something that you're going to certainly want to outline in your statement of purpose. The statement of purpose can include some personal information, of course. So generally speaking, when I work with applicants, I try to say that when thinking about a statement of purpose, it should include, about a third of a personal statement. So something that, gives the faculty and those who will read it, which we'll talk about in a minute here, some insight into who you are as a person, as an individual, as a professional, potentially, if you're looking for a more professional focused degree, or as a researcher and or academic, if you're looking to go towards a more scholarly path. You should include, of course, a little bit of personal information, but probably less so than you included in your undergraduate essays. And I think it's in this element of your application, your statement of purpose, your personal statement, where you start to see the application really start to move on from more of the undergraduate level of application, and it starts to become a bit of a different animal. So another thing that, again, you should really mention in your statement of purpose, again, that purpose, why are you going to be pursuing some degree? You should probably make a good argument as to why you are attending or applying for a specific institution as well. And part of that comes into this next bullet point, which is who reads it and why do they read it. Different at the graduate level than you might have seen at the undergraduate level. The faculty for any specific program you're applying to are likely going to be the individuals reading your statement of purpose. And the main reason for that is that they're going to be the individuals working most closely with you throughout the time that you're going to be completing your degree. If you're looking at a master's program, that's a potentially 1.5 to 2 year commitment. If you're looking for something more along the doctoral level, that's going to be potentially a 5 to 7 year commitment of your time, and inversely or conversely, the commitment of the faculty member as well to build a one-on-one working relationship with you, to advise you as you work to research and add some knowledge into the field that you're going into. So when thinking about drafting your statement of purpose and what you want to include in it, you certainly should include that argument as to why you want to apply to a specific institution. Speaking back to what Heather mentioned a little while ago with some of her application materials, thinking about the mission and the values of a specific institution is going to be really important here. But again, the faculty are also very important. If there's a particular faculty member or the chair of a department that has research interests that align directly with yours, this is absolutely something you should mention in your statement of purpose, because it's going to, again, give credence to your application, give an idea to the fact that you're applying to this institution because you believe in its mission and values, but you also see that this is something that's going to support you in your academic goals. So in this next bullet point listed focus, there's a couple questions and things that you should be considering when drafting your statement of purpose. First of all, again, making that argument as to why that program or school, and sort of explaining where your passion for this work came from. So for example, going back to my psychology application example, where did your passion for researching psychology or getting really into the weeds of statistics and using that for social science research? Where did that passion come from? Was it a class in undergrad? Is this something that you've been wanting to do for a long time, and now it's just reaching that level in your life where you're ready to pursue it at the graduate level? And then, of course, being specific about what research you're most interested in pursuing. So one thing that I always like to share in my own role as I've worked here as an admissions representative for the School of Arts and Humanities is the faculty tend to comment on the statement of purpose most often when they're looking at an application. So, without saying that it's the most important element of your application, many institutions take a very holistic approach to reviewing applications, and they try to bundle everything together as one application. But the statement of purpose is really where you can, I think, based on my experience, really elevate an otherwise mediocre application and potentially harm an otherwise stellar application. So it's going to be really important to spend a lot of time on it. And one thing that the faculty shared, and I quote a faculty member who I obviously won't name, but had said specifically in the review of an application, "I really loved this statement of purpose. I really wish more students would explain what exactly they want to research and why." And at the end of the day, it really is that simple. Being as specific as you can about your intended research and why you're pursuing it is really going to make your statement of purpose stand out. Now, again, it can seem simple, but for those of you who maybe don't have clear research ideas yet, or you're not entirely convinced of where you want to go with a specific degree, this is a really good opportunity to connect with a peer, a colleague, a trusted faculty member, and sort of work through those questions and see how specific you can be on your statement without, of course, going too far into something that you're maybe not totally convinced of yet. Moving along, so how is your lived experience, educational trajectory, and/or career goals, research or practical experience aligned with graduate aspirations? This is going to be, going back to that point of researching the mission and values of an institution. This is going to be really important here, because in your statement of purpose, you have an opportunity to align yourself with an institution before you even potentially become a member of it. How do you see yourself contributing to your field of research and/or discipline? This is particularly important for doctoral level applications, especially those of the PhD caliber, mainly because you're going to be contributing original research to a field or discipline. So having a concrete idea of what you hope to contribute is going to be really important. In additional light, maybe not even something that you can contribute, but a really fundamental way to change the conversation in a discipline is also a really unique way to approach that question. So I posed this question sort of at the end of the focus, imagining you would be applying to CGU, for example. What is it you hope to do with a degree from Claremont Graduate University? I've spoken with faculty members in another department here at CGU who have said that that tends to be this part of the statement they look at the most. They like to see an applicant who, of course, has a great idea of what they want to research, but they do like to see an applicant who has some concrete idea of, again, what they want to do with the degree and where they hope to go. At the master's level and, shorter 1.5 to 2 year programs, I would say this is potentially less important because kind of your master's level work is going to be the time to figure out sort of where you'd like to go, whether that be jumping into the workforce right after or potentially continuing on to pursue a PhD. But the faculty do like to see folks who have at least some sort of idea of where they'd like to end up, whether it be in an academic career, in a professional career. That's definitely going to be something you should, give some language to on your statement of purpose. On this final point here, I share where all of the loose ends tied up. By that, I mean, it's really important, again, as Heather mentioned, to double check just about everything on your statement of purpose. Have a second or third pair of eyes read your statement of purpose. If you don't have any trusted colleagues or faculty that are willing, which I imagine would be pretty rare in most circumstances, my piece of advice that I share with students is to, draft a statement of purpose. It doesn't have to be a final draft. You could do it what's called a zero draft, sort of set a timer for 30 minutes and just kind of free write. Get as much words on your paper as you can. And then give yourself 24 hours where you don't even look at that piece of paper. 24 hours completely to not think about it. You can go up to 48 hours if you'd like. And then return to it with an almost fresh perspective. And you sort of get a new pair of eyes on it. That can be really helpful to sort of self-edit and self-censor yourself when writing a statement of purpose or any admissions essay. And then, of course, continuing on that theme of double checking everything, again, make sure you have the right institution title and the right faculty's name in your statement of purpose. Make sure that you clean your statement for grammar or anything like that. And again, as Heather mentioned, here at CGU, as a smaller institution, we get the opportunity to work one-on-one with a lot of our applicants. So we're more than willing to read a lot of statements of purpose for our applicants to our programs. And I think the main thing that we look at, again, is that content, right? We always want to provide a good direction to our students and say, okay, you're trailing off in sort of a tangent into your personal life. That's not as necessary right now. Let's get back to the explicit research interests. Or maybe they're going sort of too dry and too professional and they don't have any personality. We definitely want some of that in your statement of purpose too. So in addition to just the content of what you're going to be focusing on your statement, there are some loose ends that you're going to need to tie up as well, whether that be editing, making sure that you get some second pair of eyes on it. A lot of important things to consider for your statement of purpose. So let's jump into another topic that's really important at the graduate level, and that's financial aid and funding. So my hope in this next few minutes is that I can sort of make you a bit more financial literate when it comes to the graduate level and sort of the unique areas of funding opportunities and the key differences, I think, between funding at the graduate level and undergraduate level. The first thing that you'll note when potentially reading into some descriptions of graduate programs in your research for various programs is that there's a larger amount of institutional funding generally available to graduate students, whether that be at the master's level or at the PhD or doctoral level. So the first thing you're going to want to either ask an admissions representative or view on their website is what sort of fellowships and scholarships are available. These are institutional funds that usually come directly from the department, or sometimes some organizations are affiliated units within a university, and they'll provide funding directly to a student to help or sometimes pay for tuition entirely. Fellowships and scholarships is, again, another pair of terms that can be used interchangeably. I think depending on the institution you're researching, fellowships can come with a bit more of a stipulation. So depending on where you're applying, especially at the doctoral level, a fellowship may have some sort of teaching role that's part of it, or potentially a research role that is sort of tied to the funding you're receiving. As so, generally speaking, scholarships are more just a sum of funds that you're being given for any given reason, whether that be tuition, cost of attendance, things like that. So there's a couple key terms to work through there. And then again, you may have heard or been familiar with some grants that are available at the undergraduate level. Generally speaking, grants are also available at the graduate level, but mostly from the direct institution you're applying to. So whether it be fellowships, scholarships, grants, it's really important to maximize the sort of funding that you can receive from a department and or that university, so you can get a clear sense of, what or if you'll be responsible paying for in terms of tuition and cost of attendance. Assistantships are also very common at the graduate level. These come in a variety of forms. Generally, the three largest assistantships that I see are graduate assistantships, which are sort of a broad assistantship that can work you into a couple different departments, whether academic or professional. Research assistantships, which generally mean you'll be tied directly to a faculty member conducting research in a field that you're both interested in. Or teaching assistantships, which means that you'll be receiving a stipend or some funding to teach some courses or serve as a teaching assistant for a larger course usually teaching undergraduate students. So again, part of your research into looking into graduate school is getting a clear sense of what's available in terms of institutional funding. I would say the most common forms of institutional funding are what's listed on the screen here. And then again, referring to on-campus employment, assistantships usually are on-campus employment of a lot of different ways, but there are generally a lot of work study positions as well. So, you know, if you're not going to be given the opportunity to maybe serve as a teaching assistant, or you're not going into a research heavy degree, there's generally a lot of on-campus positions that you could look into. So for just one notable example of a student that came here to CGU who's really interested in positive psychology and was interested in career coaching and sort of counseling students, he earned a position on campus with our career development office within his first semester. So that's just one example of a student, you know, kind of leveraging their interests and their coursework into, you know, obtaining an on-campus position. But there's countless examples of on-campus, you know, organizations that are willing to hire students. And what's nice about those on-campus positions is they often understand that you're a student first, which means there's already some built-in flexibility there that allows you to get some, you know, work done and earn a little bit of pay to sort of help with the cost of attendance potentially, but also, you know, again, understanding you're a student first and that's your first priority. So aside from institutional funding, we also do like to mention the FAFSA and other sources of aid that you can access at the graduate level. First of all, it's really important to note that even if you're applying for a program that seeks, you know, to give out 100% funding, or there's going to be a lot of financial aid opportunities, it's really going to be important to apply for the FAFSA if you're a domestic student, namely because a lot of institutions will require a FAFSA to be on file to give you some of those institutional funds. So that's definitely the first thing. And the other thing is that FAFSA and any potential federal aid you can access is going to be important to cover some other, you know, ancillary costs that you may incur as part of attending graduate school. Indirect costs like books, housing, and transportation are definitely things that you still need to be thinking about, especially if you're going to be relocating. So filing the FAFSA, again, it's free, it's really important, and it will kind of give you a sense of what you're eligible to take out at the graduate level if you need to cover some costs that may not be covered by the institution. Another really great thing about the FAFSA is indicating your interest in federal work study. By the time you're applying to graduate school, most of you will be completing the FAFSA as independents, which means your likely estimated family contribution is going to be very small, if existent at all. So being eligible for federal work study is going to be great because you get to access some of those work study funds to gain some positions on campus. If you've already, you know, joined the workforce, or you maybe are going to join the workforce before looking to pursue graduate school, never a bad idea to step into your HR office and see if there's any employer benefits of seeking out a graduate education. Many companies will provide tuition remission or sponsor some of their employees to seek out a specific degree. I've seen students who have been working with a company as a consultant who get some sponsorship funds to seek out a PhD and conduct research, you know, important to that field. So there's usually a variety of opportunities. Sometimes it's just about asking the question and stepping into HR and seeing if they offer that. Veterans benefits. So it's accessing the GI Bill if you're a member of the armed forces is definitely something that you want to look into. Here at CGU, we are a yellow ribbon school, so we support veterans in a wide range of benefits available to veterans and members of veteran families. And then, of course, external scholarships and fellowships. In addition to what you can receive from an institution, I would say that there's roughly, you know, and I sound hyperbolic here, at risk of exaggerating, millions of dollars of scholarship funds that goes unclaimed every year, mostly because students don't apply for them. So there's a long list of scholarship websites you can link into. You know, they're not all going to be in the, you know, thousands of dollars range, but it's really important to, you know, maximize and do what you can for yourself to get as many scholarship applications out there as you can. And then, of course, private lending, if you're looking to go that route. My one big piece of advice there is if you do want to go for a private lender, there are a lot of great programs and you know, institutions that you could look into. But I think it just behooves you to be a little bit more transparent with those individuals and, you know, seek some transparency from them when it comes to interest rates and repayment plans and things like that. You just want to be kind of cover your bases a bit more there when as compared to maybe seeking out maybe federal options for loans. Okay, so I've given you a crash course on written materials and then a crash course on financial aid literacy at the graduate level, sort of just covering a lot of the bases there. So let's talk about some insider tips and some helpful resources, things that myself and Heather have sort of experienced in our own roles here at CGU and as graduate students. I know Heather's currently enrolled in a doctoral program. I completed my Master of Arts in History, and I'm seeking to apply to PhD programs in the near future. So we're all kind of in the same boat here. But in our own experience and just some things that we always like to tell to students or prospective students, sort of all of the points that you'll see up on your screen here can be accessed by utilizing your admissions representative. So it's really, really important to connect with someone in the admissions office at the institution you're applying to. You know, if it's at CGU and you're looking for humanities, that would likely be me or, you know, maybe one of my colleagues. But utilizing your admissions representative will give you access to a lot of fantastic resources, namely some feedback on your statement potentially. They can answer a lot of questions for you on some of the more gray areas of an application that aren't so clear on an institution's website, for example. But they'll give you the opportunity to do a lot of great things, which is give you, number one, a bit more insider access to the faculty. So what do these admissions representatives know about the faculty? Well, maybe they know that that faculty has been working on an article that isn't quite up on the institution's website yet. So you know that maybe their research is trending in a different direction or in somewhere that you're not really, you know, ready to know quite yet. So getting some insider perspective on the faculty is one way you can utilize your admissions representative. Observing a class is also going to be really important. Scheduling a class preview. A lot of classes are being taught on Zoom right now, but even those classes that have returned fully to campus often do have hybrid options for students who can't come to class for any variety of reasons. So observing a class is going to be really important as well, for a few reasons. Number one, you get to see the faculty members in action. So you get to see what sort of lecture style or what sort of, you know, classroom culture there is. But as an extension of that classroom culture, you get to see sort of the caliber of student at an institution and see what the larger campus culture is going to look like. So observing a class is, you know, potentially a way to get a mini 2-hour free education, but it will also give you a really good insider perspective into what the campus culture and the culture of an institution is like. So that's really, really going to be important. And then as a, you know, shoot off from that class visit, you may be able to get the chance to connect with a current student and see what their perspective of the program is like and see how their application process went when they were looking to apply to the institution. And you may even get to get a conversation on why I chose this institution. And, you know, I applied to a couple different ones, but this is the one that stuck out for me. And this is why I chose to come here. So connecting with current students is a really, really great way to, again, sort of get some feedback on an institution that you're applying to. And then again, as an extension of that, connecting with alumni is going to be really, really important as well. Getting a look at, you know, the folks who have completed the program and who have moved on and who have joined the workforce. What is their perspective looking back on the institution, you know, throughout their application process, through their time working through coursework and working on the requirements for their degree. So kind of getting a picture of the institution and the program you are applying to is going to be really important as part of your application phase and as researching a university. And again, the main way to, you know, connect with students, gain access to alumni, get a little bit more information on the faculty, and sit in on a class. Many of these things can be accomplished by utilizing your admissions representative. So it's really important to start a conversation early with those folks and build a rapport with them so you can get some really great access into the institution. On that point, we'll talk just about CGU and sort of our own unique approach to graduate education. So we are one of the few top research universities in the country that is devoted to graduate education only. So you will see sort of down there on the second to last bullet point, we are all graduate all the time, which means that our faculty, our resource offices, our admissions office, our financial aid office is devoted entirely to and trained specifically for the unique needs of graduate students, whether they be MA or PhD students. What's nice about a graduate-only institution, and the fact that we're a bit smaller as well, is you get the chance to jump across disciplines and learn from a variety of different academic perspectives. In fact, there's one thing that we focus on here at CGU, in addition to student success, is a transdisciplinary approach to research. So rather than just be interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary and bring in multiple perspectives from different disciplines, or maybe you kind of bridge two disciplines together, we generally try to seek to transcend academic boundaries altogether and bring multiple disciplines together sort of above those more traditional boundaries and try to approach research questions in a transformational way. What's nice again about a graduate-only experience is that it's a very intimate learning environment. The average class size here at CGU is about 10 to 12 students. So you get really unparalleled access to your faculty member and a really unique opportunity to build a one-on-one relationship with some nationally recognized and really specialized program faculty in their specific areas. CGU is also really committed to applied research. So though we are a research university, we are very focused on applying that research in the world around us, whether it be in our psychology programs, our School of Public Health that's looking to do some transformational health research in the world around us. We really try to bring theory outside of the classroom and combine that with practice so that we can really create change and influence positive change in our community and in the world around us. We also here in Claremont are right on the edge of Los Angeles County. So we have a really fantastic and energetic location that gives you access to one of the greatest cities in the world, in addition to the beaches, the San Gabriel Mountains. So it's very possible, though it might take you a long time, to access the mountains, the beach, and the downtown Hollywood area in a single day. So we're in a pretty awesome location here in Claremont. And we've even been told that we're sort of a New England hub in the middle of Southern California. Though it does get hot and it will be warm for us today, we do have quite a lot of trees that shade the area. And for a moment, you sort of forget that you're in Southern California when you join us here in Claremont. So that is just about all the time I think we have for you today. We may be ending a few minutes early, so we could potentially take some questions if we're receiving any, but thank you so much for joining. Heather and I have been really excited to join you here this morning and afternoon to talk a little bit more about graduate school from the very basic and overview perspective. Feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions. Our contact information is listed up here on the screen, in addition to the contact information for our admissions office. So again, it's been our pleasure. Heather, anything else you'd like to end us with?
No, I think we just about covered everything. Just try to take all the information in and try to do as much of it as possible, because I wish I had done all of the things that I said when I was looking at graduate school applications. So, but thank you for having us, and feel free to connect with us, for any advice we have for graduate admissions.
Thanks.
Thank you both, Heather and Sean, for being with us. It's very, very informative. I think this is really going to help. Do we have any questions? I think Elliot has joined us. Are there any questions from anyone out there? All right, well, if not, we'll sign off. I hope you've all enjoyed Grad School 101, and I think this would be a good partnership in the future. Thank you very much. Bye.
Welcome. Take care.